Okay, welcome back to What If History Restarted. This is episode 48. Last time we saw some things happen, so go watch that. Mainly the colony of the Chinese team country thing rebelling and getting independence, although some of its land went over to the Sudanese country. I almost said red because religion. But anyway. So the end of that episode was probably around 1850, I'd say. So the world is definitely I think it's definitely more colonized at this point in time than it was in our timeline. Because there still is no actual countries in South America. So what we're gonna do here is that the last episode ended, like I said, in about 1850. The start of this one is gonna be in around 1810. That sort of range. It'll run up until we get to 1850, and then episode 49 will be 51 to 1908 or something, and then episode 50, the halfway point, will pick up from there. So yeah, so we're going back in time by just a little bit to catch up on colonies. So first of all, Denmark's North American colony is going to continue expanding by a little bit. If I can get the right brush size. There we go. It's going to go right through that lake. And then just take some of these islands. Of course, I made that not look good. Hold on. There. Nope, there's still some pixels. As for the rest of this land, it is going to be gobbled up by Alaska and the native country. So Alaska will look like this, and the country that's actually controlled by the government of Native Americans takes the rest. You're also going to take a little bit down here. And then obviously these last few islands will go over to Alaska. Although, there's a few up here that I should probably give to the Danish. And so that is North America almost completely filled in. Not quite, because we still have this area. So some of these countries do continue to expand down into here, such as this purple one, the prairie country, but not by that much. Just something that went into that country. Something like this. This country takes this amount, and this guy takes this. That, I don't know, I said and, because that is not the end. This one will be taking this. The green Chihuahua, I think this is where Chihuahua is. Look at that. These guys will take all of this. And what's interesting here is that these guys are going to take all of this. So obviously this one just inflated by a whole lot more land, and pretty quickly they start to settle this land, and they even found a couple cities out here. Well, more than a couple, but 2 major cities. So that's all going great, and they are funding these cities like crazy. Most of these cities get really supported well by the government. And it gets to the point, actually, where the original part of this country, including the capital area, this place, is starting to actually suffer from this. And so there's this whole economic issue going on, and now that's a big issue. And so we're going to see revolts appear in these areas. Now these revolts, I'm giving their own color. However, they are not looking for independence. They're more just separatist movements for either the Californian countries or this country. But yeah, these ones are along the edges. They start off along the edges. But soon enough, pockets are popping up like more towards the capital and this city. Eventually, these two groups meet up. This one also connects up with this group. This section falls. This entire area gets cut off, and these two groups meet up. Eventually, this city is captured, and this half falls, as well as this half. From there, it all coalesces into one big thing, which marches into the capital of the country, and after winning that battle, declares victory. And so, in this peace treaty, you're going to see that these people and lands will be given over to the surrounding countries. So, we have the North Californian country that looks interesting, take all of this. The main Californian country take this. And these guys start to take this. There. Do they? No, they do not have two capitals. They're just very long. And so this country, its capital area is kind of, they don't really know what to do with it, because it definitely wants to break off, but it doesn't really want to be independent. None of these countries actually want to, claim it. Let's make this border look a little bit better. So, that is still an issue to be figured out, and pretty much the 1, 2, 3, 4, these 4 countries, governments, as well as this main government, all kind of have to work out a deal here, and eventually it goes over to the gold Californian country, even though they don't really want it. So there they go. With this, we essentially just saw this country accidentally move, but that's what it did. That might be the desert. Let's move it up here. What would that be? What would that be? What's above there? Kansas, maybe? I don't know. So now North America is completely filled in, and it has some interesting borders. What is this thing? Wow. Most of it is independent, except for the Caribbean islands, southern Central America, and the big ol' Danish colony. / Canada. So now over here in this area, we see that these guys, they don't even really have a specific motive for wanting to break off from Korea, but they just it's just a bunch of general factors, like the government's being bad, the laws are unfair, they're unsatisfied with everything happening, they don't receive enough support, and they also just don't think that the government is doing a good job at governing them, because this is a very different region of the world from Korea. And so we're going to see some insanely large protests, outright rebellions occur in these areas. So I don't know why I colored the Galapagos Islands in first of all things, but yeah, so they start up in Ecuador, and we see some around here. We also see some in this Argentinian area. Then let's try and fix this a little bit. Falklands even. And eventually it looks something like this. So these, maybe that's a little bit too small. We'll give this one, this rural area. And we'll even go into Peru. These guys are all of the rebellions of the Korean area, country, thing, whatever. And so we are going to see that over here, this one is in the very south, is actually the most powerful. They take these cities, going kind of on both sides of the Andes, until eventually it just, capitulates. This vital city is now under threat, which is not good for Korea. Up here, they are doing a little bit better, as they managed to squash out the Panama thing, and they also reconnect this half, although this one does take a new major city from it, and gets very close to connecting up with this one. And as for that one, though, they are slowly losing land in the north, but not so much in the south, as they actually now get near to this one and even merge with it. These guys now make a big push out here, and once again we have another vital city being under threat. And in fact, these guys are even going to do a sort of pincher movement like that, and now it is severely under threat. Back down here, there's a battle for this vital city, in which the Koreans actually managed to win, and from there they have a very unprotected coast to move down, eventually taking this major city before cutting across. I haven't, I never really have noticed how, like, insane this coast is over here. Like, that's a lot of islands and stuff. So, like, I don't know what they're doing over here, but they're just going up along, not on the Andes, but on the coastal area. And so we see that these guys actually managed to encircle this entire area of rebellion, although there's still a lot of troops here, and this encirclement is pretty thin, so it's not particularly, like, game-changing. Up here, they crack down on the Ecuadorian one and completely stomp it out. However, in the process of doing that, they did have to relocate troops, so they lost that vital city, as well as a significant portion of, like, Peru and northern Chile and some of Bolivia. But now we have, well, hold on. Once they finish wiping out this, like, very, very southern tip, now we have two halves. And so they're going to focus on this half first, and they managed to wipe it out. However, this half is still running rampant, and they managed to take those two those two major cities, and also come out here a decent amount. However, with Korea's troops now being floated over, on boats even more, we now see that massive landings are going to be made in all of these major cities, well, all two of them, but they are very big landings, and they even managed to reconnect. They then cut off here, and they encircle a very large number of rebels over here. They eventually push them all the way back to the city, and in there they wipe them out, and there's some very horrible atrocities done to them in that city. So much so that we're actually going to see another country enter this war, being this thing, Central America / Yucatan, whatever they are. They are going to start pushing, that is too similar to their color, they are going to start pushing down into the Korean colonies, and they almost immediately put this vital city under threat. From there, the Koreans do a decent job at pushing back these guys in the south. However, in the north, these guys are still moving upwards. These Ecuadorian areas, since they did, also just rebel, are obviously not facing that much resistance. And really, there's just not that much resistance anywhere. Anyway, we now see that the Korean troops are going to try to boat in from Korea, or from Hawaii, maybe. I guess if you count Hawaii as North America, then North America's not independent. That's another country that's not independent, but I think it's Oceania, technically. But yeah, so the Koreans, they boat in over here from Hawaii, and their intended trajectory is just straight like this. Well, maybe it's to that one major city right there. However, a storm blows them kind of off course, and they end up grazing right on by the Galapagos, and from there, all of the boats are, pirated, almost, by these guys. There's probably, actual pirates in the Galapagos. So that is a huge loss to the Koreans, and a very embarrassing one, as we see that their entire northern area, including a vital city, is going to be overtaken by rebels and the Yucatan Empire. That's right, they have an emperor. As for down south here, the Korean army is extremely mutinous. They do not like having to boat all the way across the Pacific Ocean and then just get beat up a lot. And so we see a lot of desertion, and we also see that some pockets of occupation are no longer going to be able to be occupied because of low morale. So these rural areas start to rise up in rebellion again. We then see that these guys meet up here, and all of this is conquered. And from there is just a slow push down here, well, and a slow push up, and also down another way. Eventually, the Korean colony is reduced to just this vital city, which after a very large battle is finally taken, and the rebels win in South America. So finally, we've started to see rebellion in South America, and the other countries are very terrified right now. So now we are going to go and look at that peace treaty. And this is our new map of South America, so we can see that there are quite a few countries divided up from this. So starting up here, we had Central America get a decent sliver of land, including a vital city. That's mainly what they wanted. We see this pretty large, like, northern Ecuador / Colombia country, as well as a little bit of Peru. Then down here we have like two actual Perus. These are like the two weakest countries. They're pretty rural. And yeah, that is them. Although this one's probably a little bit weaker than this one. We have this sort of Bolivian country, I guess. It's kind of hard to describe, but I guess it would be Bolivia. And then we have this northern Chilean one, and this very southern tip one. The capital is over there. Like I said, I never really realized what this coast is like, so maybe that's like a bunch of mountains. I don't know. But we're gonna hope it's not. And finally, we have this country, and now it only has one city, which is its capital, but it was a vital city before, so this one is pretty economically powerful. Speaking of cities, some of these countries do probably need a couple more cities, so we're going to give them those right now. Bam, maybe not there. That's in the Andes. You are kind of rural, same thing with you, but I guess you'll both get cities. And you probably want a few more out here. And yeah, there we go. I guess we can also add, like, yeah. I don't know if this is a no, I think the rainforest is more up here. And speaking of up here, / the rainforest, these, if we look over here, as I mentioned last episode, we have these, like, tribal people here. There used to be a bunch of tribes here, but with colonialism happening, eventually all the tribes were kind of defeated by one of the tribes, who have now taken complete control over the area. And maybe unsurprisingly, this area of the world is very, not wanted, because it is literally just rainforest. So eventually these tribal people are going to kind of make their own country. It's just anarchy. There is a sort of government. It's just a very, I don't know what the word would be, minimalist, I guess. And there's like 2 laws, which are like, don't kill the king, and don't like colonialism. And that city is on the Amazon River, so we'll just like pretend it's like that, if the Amazon River doesn't go there, then just pretend it does. So yeah, these guys are terrifying. They probably send like cow skulls over on the borders of colonial countries. They're very feared by these guys. But with that, I think, other than Antarctica, that actually marks the entire world being filled in now. So that is pretty good. Also, I want to quickly mention here, Korea has lost a ton of land in their colonies. So they have gone probably down in the power rankings. Like Tuscany, I guess they also did lose a colony, but definitely wasn't as detrimental. They're also more focused on their African colony and even South American colony. So they are actually probably number one now. And then, like, I think Korea and Austria are pretty close for number two. Remember, Austria has probably the best economy in the world. They did start the Industrial Revolution, after all. That's pretty good. And I just, yep. Those are my fingers. If you can hear that. I don't know if the mic would pick it up or not, but hopefully it did. So yeah, we have a bunch of new, fresh baby countries down here. And these ideals are going to spread a little bit more, and we're finally going to see another country start losing their colonies. I mean, other than, we had Tuscany lose theirs and Catalonia and all that, but another new country, because it's just been Korea and China losing theirs for a while. And which is it going to be? I'll tell you now, it's not Denmark or Tuscany, unfortunately. It is either going to be one of the weaker two, Egypt or Galicia, who are still major world powers, but not as strong as Tuscany or Denmark, who are like some of the biggest powers in the world. Tuscany is like this world's UK currently, and like these guys are Germany, these guys are France. Maybe these guys are France? I don't know. Well, not in terms of relations, obviously, but in terms of power. And then Russia, I guess, would probably be Korea, maybe? Obviously, Russia didn't have colonies, but like I said, just in terms of power. Maybe it would be the red team, because the red team is very strong. They aren't that big, but, like, they are very powerful. Honestly, they probably could, if they really wanted to, go after and defeat the entire Circle Alliance. However, they do not want to do that because that would suck and a lot of people would die. Speaking of the red team, speaking of the Circle Alliance, these colonies are very content with staying in Oman currently. And like I said, we're only really going to focus on the New World. But yeah, I just wanted to touch up on that. Old World will be next episode. And going back over to the New World, like I said, I just realized I forgot to announce who the country using their colony would be. And it is actually going to be Galicia. And, yeah. So there's all these rebellious countries going on around them. And all of them are doing really great now. And they're doing, like, way better than they were when they were colonized. So these guys don't really see a reason to be colonized anymore. Galicia, so I keep calling them Galicia, but they're really just Portugal now. They are like they are a pretty major power, but like they're kind of just like how Portugal was in our timeline around like 1850s. Like they're still pretty strong, but not as strong as like the big guys. So yeah, these guys aren't really doing that well right now, and they want freedom. And so over in actually these major cities, these two, we see that this rebellion is going to start, and it is going to start very well. In fact, as soon as it actually marches into this vital city without any real problems, and then very surprisingly, Portugal's just like, yeah, you can just go. We don't want to fight this. So there we go. Galicia's colonies are independent as one, although that might not last for long. That is not capital size. We'll put their capital right here. Yep, these guys are one country for now. If we look at the original layer, I believe they are, well, obviously, because they were colonized. I think they were colonized by Gibraltar. I mean, I know they're Gibraltar's color on the religion layer, but that's just because Galicia is also Gibraltar's religion. That could be because of that, I mean. So, I think they were colonized by Gibraltar. But if not, they were colonized by... Yeah. The point is they were colonized by the same country. So, obviously, it's the same thing. Anyway. Over here, these two countries are getting into a big old feud over the control of the Gulf of Mexico. Or, I don't even know. I guess would it be called, like, the Gulf of Yucatan in this timeline? I don't really know. Because there's no, like... There's no country that has like a ton of the coast here. Mexico in our timeline has all this coast. I mean, the U.S. has a good amount too, but like we don't like them. And Gulf of United States kind of just sounds stupid. So yeah, there's some weird pixels right here. Let's fix that. So yeah, maybe go for Louisiana. I don't know. But yeah, point is these two countries are going to war. It is mainly going to be, well, not mainly, but there is going to be a lot of naval fighting. So you can see that pretty immediately as these guys land around here. They try to invade like up the Mississippi River, but that fails horribly because that's the mouth of the Mississippi River. But obviously it's not going to go too well. I am kind of realizing that this country, well, maybe not. I was going to say it looks like this country is invading some territory down here, but I guess this one's more blue and this one's more purple. Well, this one's very purple, but this one is more blue. But yeah, we see some coastal stuff going on down there. Louisiana is not a pushover though, and they are more going to go into the land aspect of this war and jump Alabama via the land. And so they get pretty close to the capital. Meanwhile, Alabama is not slowing down. They do manage to cross the Mississippi River with heavy fatalities, and that is an issue because obviously these guys had troops on the Mississippi River, which made it extremely difficult to cross. So they weren't actually expecting Alabama to cross it. So once Alabama does cross it, their capital gets overrun, like, immediately. From there, Alabamian troops continue moving up, and they also spirit out to take that major city. Meanwhile, they lose their own capital. However, they then recall some of these troops, but still maintain enough to capture this city, because these guys are still scrambling to get their troops in order. They're able to push out the Louisianians. They then do a pincer movement like this and circle a ton of troops out there. And eventually Louisiana is going to say, okay, fine, we agree. You can have more dominance over the Gulf of Louisiana, even though we are what it's named after, this timeline. I mean, obviously, we don't speak English, but, like, whatever language they would speak. So we don't see a lot of land exchange. It's mainly just, like, it's not something you can see on a blank political map like this. But yeah, these guys are they have a lot more restrictions on what they can do. And plus they do lose the mouth of the Mississippi River. I believe it is, it's kind of weird, goes all the way down like that, I think. I could be wrong, but something like that. And yeah. So that is going to do it for this episode. And yep, all the world is filled in, except for Antarctica, but that's Antarctica, so we don't care. Goodbye.